Hello, welcome to Flory Models Kit Review Time. Today we've got Hobby Boss's 1/32 scale B-24J Liberator. Yes, you heard me right, 1/32 scale. Okay, the world probably needs a 1/48 scale one, pretty much. Very well done in 1/72, but Hobby Boss have decided to go straight in at 1/32. Now, to be honest with you, I was never going to review this kit. It really doesn't interest me on this scale. It is far, far too big. And out of all of the World War II heavy bombers, I think the B-24 is actually the biggest. It's bigger than a Lancaster, it's bigger than a B-17. So yeah, you're gonna need a lot of space with this one. But my ears pricked up on two folds, really. First of all was the price, because this thing comes in, full recommended retails around about £150. I think we've got it on the site for around about 130. So really, that's a hell of a lot of plastic. You can see just by the size of the box for the money, okay? And the other thing is that I heard a few reviews from other reviewers on the internet, both on sort of YouTube and written as well, who really slated this kit. And I'm wondering why, especially when you think about the price of this thing and compare it to other 1/32 World War II bombers, especially the heavy ones like the HK models, Lancaster, Wingnut Wings one coming out in the very near future, things like that, which are all around the £400. And I just wanted to know for myself exactly what's going on here, what's really that bad about the kit, and can you use it as a staging post and move on with the build and take it from being pretty much a basic build into something really, really special. But without having a look at it, we'll never know. So let's have a look. So as we can see, this massive box, say mediocre box art on there. I quite like it. It's very much old school to it, but obviously it shows a pair of Liberators there bombing. So a slight whip round. You can see on here, to give this a scale thing, this thing is technically 68 centimeters long with a wingspan of 105. You know, give or take half a mil. So, giving you a bit of a look round. Where are you? There we go. This is what we're talking about here. So it has got a very nice interior. Now, we're not saying this is, you know, Wingnut Wings and all the rest of it, but it's going to be a start, I think, down in here. A little bit of Photo-Etch and obviously some decals. And then, crikey, definitely the biggest lump. I've tried to do this. So your kit number for this is, I have to stand up, I can't even see it, it's 83210. Okay, and we've got some of the marking options down in here. So we've got some nice colourful birds as well. There's something a little bit more traditional with the sort of olive drab over it, just like that. So, okay, I have not looked in here as always. He says he's trying to get in. Come on, come on. If you can get in the box, this won't be the first time I've spent half an hour trying to get in the box. Okay, come on, there we go. Right. Oh my lord. Okay, so, right. I think this is one of those where we'll chuck it on the floor and we'll worry about it afterwards. But there we go. That is, to give you an idea of the scale of what this actually is at the end of the day. It is an absolute monster. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take a couple of these parts out just so you can see what you're going to be confronted with in the box. We've got actually quite nice packaging the way this is done. So we've got the clear parts all tucked away. Look at the size of the tyres. That's obscene. Right, okay, anyway. So we're down in there, we're down in there. We're looking for some instructions. So as always, we will have a quick look through the instructions and then we'll have a quick whiz through the kit itself. So let's move that out of the way. Okay, look at the size of the decal sheet. Right, so in here, that's what we're after. All right, so let's just play a couple of camera angles and things like that. We just move these around a little bit because they're huge. Okay, so instructions. Usual way of doing it. So you've got your parts trees going right the way through. Interior, as we would imagine, going through in there, and then obviously the floor deck will be the, or assume it is, will be the deck for the underside as well, going in there for the actual front wheel well. Again, it doesn't look too bad in detail. We've got a little bit of photo etch down in there so for the control levers, things like that. So that's actually looking quite nice. And there we go. So we've got the upper and the lower deck system being fitted down into those as well. And then it's going to be, as you might expect, when you've got a full interior, it's going to be all the bulkheads running right the way through with the detailed sections all in between. So obviously we've got the bomb aimers compartment at the front. We've got the wireless operators area. We actually got the Bombay, so forth and so on. Looks like we've got a nice Bombay system into this one. And then we're going to be sort of modular, clipping all of these together right the way through. And then we're going to go through the waist area, and then obviously we're going to be going to the tail, okay? Then it's into the turrets, which I've heard lots of chatter about, but having not seen one, I don't want to comment yet, okay? So we've got the ball turret going down underneath again. To be honest, looking at this, it looks quite detailed. Colour callouts right the way through for the actual main fuselage. We've got these sort of ammunition areas for the waist guns, things like that, being put onto all of those. Then we've actually got more sort of conduit work, piping, things like that, hydraulic-y stuff, oxygen bottles, all that type of stuff you'd imagine inside the actual aircraft itself. Okay, and then working our way right the way through, say more conduit type things going in there, adding layers and layers of detail to all of this. Tail turret being footed, and actually obviously the nose turret being fitted in there as well. Ball turret going in underneath. Okay, so assuming it will be retractable as well. Okay, nicely we've got these ammunition feeders going in. I do believe they are vinyl, which be like it or hate it, quite frankly. Okay, and then we've got top turret being fitted on there. Huge wing spar, which let's face it, it'd have to be, purely just because of the size of this thing. Okay, then we've obviously got the Bombay doors. I'm not sure if they're going to be shown in the full retracted position or they'll be just in the standard open position. Okay, so it looks like you might have an option to do both in here, but certainly it can be shown open or closed. All right, and then working our way, we assume, with the actual wheel wells being fitted down into this one onto the wings, various cowls being closed over, things like that, right the way through. It looks like we don't have an open option for the cowl flaps. Looks like it could be closed, or perhaps you can have them open. Or closed. All right, we'll have to have a look. So we do have flaps being fitted down underneath there. Obviously we've got the superchargers going in on the top, sorry, underneath even on these. All right, and then obviously right the way through. So we've got plenty of stuff going around, quite busy on these. These engine nacelles all going together, and then obviously we've got the wheels being fitted down into that one, front and rear, and then the engine, which again, a lot's been said about that. I'm not going to say anything until I've seen it myself. All right, so we've got the engine detail, and then the tail planes, and then obviously we've got the vertical stabilizers down there on that sort of famous T-tails on these ones, and then obviously we've got the rudder system being fitted on there, a couple of aerials, and you're good to go. It sounds so easy, doesn't it? Yeah. Okay, so decals. Now they're big. One can hope that they're going to be okay. All right. So snippy snip. So the decals are concerned, gives you an idea of how big these are. Now, to be honest with you, when you're into this realm of the size, sometimes what can happen is things just get a little bit, you know, I'm trying to think of the right wording for this one. Technically, I call it metalled, okay, as in toyified. And this is a classic example because the nose art and things like that doesn't look particularly sort of in the scale of this. It would look fine if you were dealing with a 1/72 scale bomber, and certainly I think it would look fine if you were doing even sort of, you know, 1/48, but here we are 1/32. You'd want it to be a little bit more refined and things like that. That said, I'm sure this is pretty much all they've actually got down in here. Okay, but generally that actually looks quite nice. No real problem. The only thing is, this is a hell of a sheet of clear being put on here. It may be, and again, if you know somebody who can do it, Ron, to get you to print you out some die cut masks so you can actually stick them onto your model and spray them on, because I think you'll have far better right the way down to the kill markings for the bomb markings, purely because I think it would just be a lot easier to do. So where the hell do you start? Okay, let's start with the biggest bit. This is the wow factor. Okay, let's see what we've got. So, in one huge, this is massive, so I don't think I'm going to try and tighten up the thing. You're just going to have to bear with me on this one. Generally, looking at this, I have to say I'm actually quite impressed with the plastic. I don't know if you can hear it. This has that real sort of Hasegawa sound to the plastic. It's chinky, it's hard. It's not that normal soft stuff that sometimes we get, especially with trumpeter, Hasegawa, you know, Airfix, things like that. This has actually got a nice chinky, hard feel to it, which I'm led to believe then should be a lot easier to work with, or certainly has in my thing. Okay, now surface detail, again, I know it's going to get called out because the bigger you go, the more you need. Hell, I don't know if you can see it slightly, got a nose down here of a said 72nd scale Bear bomber I'm working on, which is massive. We'll do a comparison in a minute. Because to be honest, that thing in 72nd is bigger than this thing in 32nd. But anyway, the thing is that it is got all the major panel lines all in here, but then obviously all the sub ones it hasn't. So it might be a case of just running around and re-riveting it, and that's something I've been doing on a model I've been working on at the moment, because it does look a little bit bare. The other thing it hasn't got, which is something I think in this scale especially it lends itself to also well, is stress skin. Now stress skin is something I love to see. We've seen it with Airfix, we've seen it on the Typhoon, and notably coming up very shortly, and having seen it now face to face and actually had some handling time with it, the Wingnut Wings Lancaster is beautiful. The surface detail on that is probably the finest I've ever seen on a model kit in my life. But there again, you have to think, that's great, but that's a 400 quid kit, versus you got this little guy here who's just over £100 if you have a hunt for it on the net. So in some ways, you're not going to get that beautiful textured skin and stuff in there, not at this price point, and that's what you're allowing for. But generally, I'm more than happy with the plastic that they're actually used in here, and I'm more than happy with the surface detail as a start point. We've got no sink marks, we've got no nasties in this whatsoever. It actually looks very, very nice indeed. So again, this is one of those ones where, if I move this back just a little bit more, we might be able to get some stuff in. You can probably see on the close-up, hopefully you see on the close-up, we've got that surface detail running all in here. Actually doesn't look too bad at all. The riveting detail's all there, and using it as a start point, I think you'll be absolutely fine. It's really nice as well when we get to these top edges, as it curves over, it doesn't fade off. There's nothing, it's nice, clean and sharp. On the inside, again, what stands out to me very, very nice is the lack of ejector pins in here that seem to be in the way. I can count none. In fact, I'm finding I can see them, but I'm trying to point out notable ones. What I'm looking for is ejector pin marks directly on here. I know what they've done is they're not using ejector pins, they're using these, and if you can see them just down in here, these little marks here and here. These are being used, so instead of an ejector pin, it's actually a line, and you can see them down in here. Maybe just you catch it here, and maybe notably you can see it here and here. So what happens is, instead of it your standard round ejector pin pushing into it, destroying that bit of detail, they're actually working with it. Again, very nice touch to see, and again, certain other manufacturers could learn a lot from it. You can see it a little bit more down in here at this tail area. You can see where they've used it in these. Okay, so that's how they're getting it out of the mold, especially something. But what that does mean, it's minimal cleanup for all of this great detail inside. It's just the start point, and obviously it moves on. There is a couple of little marks. We've got a little one just down in here, things like that, but generally this is where surface detail and items are going to go on here. The only thing that's slightly worrying, you can see them just here, these are slightly blurred off, and I don't know why. They are blurred on both sides because they're blurred off on this one, so it may be just something, the way it's going to go together. It just worries me that that is a sort of, you know, a soft moulding. But generally, because it is this hard plastic, I'm actually quite taken with it. Okay, so yeah, crazy, absolutely crazy. Okay, so there we go, that's the fuselage. So far, so good. Now, wings, underside of wings. So down in here, it's going to take me an hour and a half to clear this up after the review. Again, you know, you would be hoping that certainly down in here we would have some beautiful details going on and some very fine stuff, but we're not. We're quite big and bulky, but again, very nice. It's the same plastic right the way through. We have got a little bit of sink marks going on these. Well, the camera can pick these up. You can just about see them in here. We have got a little bit of sink marks on here, straight away, jump straight out at me. Down on the inside though, considering we've got these large strengthening straps going through here and all this different area, actually that's not a problem. And the great thing is, these things here I don't think will make any difference because this is the size we want. So again, nice little touch on these. They have done a little bit of cleanup all around this. You can see these white lumps clicked off of it everywhere. But generally, I have to say, That's really nice. And again, using it for perhaps the point of this riveting detail being your start point, I think you could really make that into something very nice. Okay, tops of the wings. Right, okay, so again, basically the same type of setup on these. The de-icing boot on the front is very pronounced, again, but now you're into 32nd scale, that wouldn't be overdone, I don't think. Again, nice texture right the way through on this thing. So yeah, actually, no real problems with it. I have to say it's a good, sharp kit. And again, because of this framing work, you would expect to see, traditionally, hobby boss / trumpeter, people like that, sink marks running right through in here. Revell, they're a nightmare for it. We don't. So that's actually very nice moulding. What that means is literally when this has come out of the mould, probably like this, it's moulded, okay, and then literally it's weighted. There'll be a pause, and then obviously the mould comes away, it gets pushed out, and then it drops down into the bin below. If it's pushed out too quickly, this on this side, you actually get the sink marks, because what happens is the plastic, the thermal properties are still soft on the inside, and as they cool, they shrink, and then you get shrink marks. Again, very nice that we don't see that. So, grabbing a few of these, because we're going to be a while, so we'll flick through as fast as we can, and I'll pull out things I can see as we make our way through. Okay, so down in here, again, when you're looking at some of this detail, especially on the close-up, so we can get in here now, we can see we've got this nice sort of ribbing, which is fully riveted and detailed. Very nice. We can see all these bulkheads and frames looking very nice. We can probably just run through them quite slowly. We can see we've got no problems on any of those whatsoever. Now these obviously I'm presuming are going to need a bit of cleanup, and we're probably just going to be a case of clicking these things off. Just literally like that, you're good to go. You won't harm them on the inside by just wiggling them off, okay? But you probably are going to have to do a bit of cleanup on all of these because everything's got them. All right, so there we go. Then we've got a match pair in here because we've got the props. So we'll just, if we can, I don't know if we can. If not, we'll just get both. I think we have to get both off here. So down in here, the all important propellers. So we've got these big paddle type ones just down in here, you can see. And again, a lot of people have been obviously talking about here, this is the back side of one of the engines, this is the front. Okay, so again, yes, this through, yeah, okay, all right. I'm going to give people a lot of sort of respect on this because a lot of people complained heavily about this. I have to agree. That's very softly done for such an important part of a bomber. All your attention is going to be on here as soon as you look in the engines. We know we've got a little bit of photo etch going to be going down in here for the ignition leads, but it'd be nice, I suppose, if this was a little bit nicely moulded, just a little bit more time put in there. The superchargers, pretty much what you'd expect, as you can see on those. And as I said, we've got a match pair with these. But nice thing again, the props, we've got no sink marks, there's no mass cleanup going to be, there's not even any burring on them. So again, very nice. Again, it's that chinky plastic. Okay. And when we say chinky plastic, it's the sound it makes when you drop it. It's like a very ching. Okay, so Bombay Doors. Again, very fine riveting detail right the way over it. You can see it down in there. We've got some of the ammunition boxes, and we've got some of the wiring, conduit work, things like that. You can see we've got the Bombay Doors. Outside's fully detailed right the way through. And again, more piping, hosing work, things like that in there. Very, very nice indeed. All separate bags. The only time they're dual bags is normally if it's a match pair, which is fair enough. Okay, so this little guy down in here, again, we've got the bomb racks, some of the areas, pitos, things like that. Again, it's big and chunky, but that's because of what it is. So we've got the windows for different types of the doors on these ones. As I said, I'm no way an expert on the B-24 family, in fact any of the World War II family. We're just thinking, is that a little bit of flash or is that a little bit of something? I think that's a little bit of flash. Okay, generally very nice. Got ejector pins on here, but nicely to report that even the ones down in here, if you catch them, You can see these ones have got ejector pins in these doors, which normally I would complain heavily about, but trust me, if you see them all there and they look gnarly, do that. They are basically invisible. They're very, very nicely done. So I don't think you'd even have to worry about anything more than a very light sand to get rid of those. So again, I can't fault that. That's quite nice. Okay, more bulkheads. Various things. Okay, so we've got the instrument panel. We've got a lot around the Bombay. We've got the actual ball turret area, things like that. Got a couple of the guns. So at the top here we can see a few of the 50 cals. Down on here we've got the various parts for the ball turret. We've got some of the wheel hubs, bulkheads, instrument panel, which is very plain, but we're assuming that's going to liven up in a moment. Some of the interior work, more 50 cals. If we flip over, we can see the detail on the 50 cals isn't too bad at all. And then down on the blank side, not a lot really going on the underside for all of that. Okay, then we've got tail with the tail plates. Again, nice detail, I have to say. I'm actually quite a fan of this detail. I know people have been screaming about saying it's very Bane and there's not a lot going on, but to be honest, it's everything you would pretty much be shouting about is in here. So again, no problem with those at all. Again, the ejector pins all nicely tucked out the way, very flush. You can imagine that making a good solid join. And actually the way this goes together as well, I do have to say, looks like it's an absolute tank. The undercarriage obviously would be the weak spot if it's got anything on there, but just the way it comes down. But as for the rest of it, it looks fantastic. And again, beautiful detail. The riveting work and the detail work actually on these vertical stabs, and then obviously we've got the rudders. Nice details on these right the way through. Very nice. Again, probably worth just coming in here doing a little bit more cleanup, because some of these are positively gnarly. You can probably see in here it's like, but that's not a problem. Okay, so just down in here we've got a flap, the biggest flap you've ever seen. Look at the size of it. It's chunky, big, but the floor detail really, really nice. Again, lending itself very nicely to weathering and all these things, and just the line detail and the plating, things like that. Again, looks to be very, very nice indeed. I think it's definitely one of these where at first glance you might think, oh, it's a bit plain and basic. Second look you think, wow, actually I think we've got plenty of room in here. Okay, so there it is. That's what we're talking about. This is the strength. This actually here is your center section to it for the wing box, which is going to give you all that great strength to those wings. It's going to stop them drooping and hanging, and obviously moving around shows and stuff like that, you'll be absolutely fine. As for the interior details, again, the riveting pattern carries along the corrugatedness of all the items. Various things down in here, no problem with those at all. Unfortunately, this guy may be a visible one, probably the worst ejector pins we've seen on this one at that point. Okay, so where are we? Oh my lord. There's just tons of it. It keeps coming. It doesn't stop. Okay, hang around because I've got quite a, I think, an important thing to say at the back of this review, from my opinion. So if you like one of my rants, stay tuned. Okay, so yeah, again, when you're looking down in here of all the things, so obviously we've got the bombs, we've got the oxygen bottles, things like that down in here. Really very nice. We do have some ammunition feeders that are done normally, more 50 cal guns as well, but generally you can see we don't have any real problems with all this. It's really very, very nice. And in some ways, when you're dealing with a bigger kit, I suppose, you know, brace yourself for the rants here they start, but do you really want tiny little details? If you've moved up for doing 1/32 stuff, that's assuming that perhaps your eyesight isn't exactly what it used to be. Perhaps the old sausage fingers, I'm guilty of that one, are in play. So you want bigger kits to be easier to work with and easier to handle and things like that. Do you want tiny little details which are going to drive you mad? This is it. This is what I'm thinking. Okay, so Really nice engine nacelles. Good, solid, proper, chunky design with them. Like that a lot. Okay, generally, again, the standard sort of riveting we've seen all the way through, so at least that doesn't fluctuate. More of these flaps and things like that down in there. The sort of areas for the superchargers. Again, good, solid construction with it. Again, it has that real, I don't know, solid, chunky feel to it. He says he moves into the smaller parts now. But that's nice, I like that. It feels what it is, it feels like a bus. Okay, now I'm going to peel these off, but underneath here we do have very small parts, which are very, very nicely protected. You can probably see those in there. I'm not going to whip those off. Okay, so here you are. This is into the nitty gritty. So down in here we're talking turrets, things like that, and obviously pilots areas for these smaller details. More guns, lots of 50 cals on this bird, as you might imagine. And again, right the way through. Okay, so yeah, really very, very nice indeed. Okay, again, pretty much this is all your interior detail. Oh, I missed the... Okay, there we go. All right, so down in here, we've actually got more 50 cals. Okay, we've got the wheels, the turrets, all these good areas down in here as well. Nice, good, sharp. I say sharp, this little thing is really sharp. Okay, we'll start the other side. So we've got nose wheel bits and pieces down in there. As you can see, we've got the turrets, ammunition feeders. Obviously the blanking plate for the underside if you're doing that way. Right the way through. Again, very, very nice indeed. No problems at all. No sink marks, no nothing. Again, the ejector pins are all pretty much out the way, all very, very flush. But we do have the odd little bit, like down in here. It's a little bit gnarly with these around. And it'll be a pain to get in there and do it. But, you know, again, getting there with a sanding stick. Skiddy sticks are your friends in this way of doing it. Okay, so, right. Really, lots of stuff with the gear. Now, the gear itself does sort of worry me, and I'm looking at this and we're seeing we've got big slots. I'm imagining we've got metals going to go inside this, and away we go. But the gear doors themselves, again, clever use of ejector pins right where they are. So these are ejector pins in the middle, and they've used that circle as a whole ejector pin to get it out. Clever, clever way of doing it. Really, actually do like that. Okay, it's almost like hiding in plain sight. So you're not going to notice it because the entire thing is there. But you can see this gear stuff, various stuff around on here. Really, very, very nice indeed. These hatches. Boarding points. Okay, so we are down to the nitty gritty. Glass, which I'm going to do last because everyone's been telling me about that bit. Photo etch. No, there's me thinking this would be metal. It's not, it's plastic. So down in here, we won't bother getting these out. As you can see, it's actually plastic gear. But this is going to go inside the plastic. Weird way of doing it, I know, but there you go. I'm assuming this is a different type of plastic, maybe. Feels like plastic to me, if I'm honest. Okay, 50 cal shoots in vinyl, as we said before. Probably not a fan of that. It would be nice to have photo etch and you bend it. Okay, let's do, speaking of photo etch in here, very, very thick. This is one sheet, it feels like two sheets. It's just one sheet here. So we've got the ignition lines for the engines, which are going to hide some of those details. We've got the various parts down in here, some for the internals, some for the externals. Yeah, okay, it would have been nice to see a little bit more down in here, but let's face it, the aftermarket boys are going to be on this one. Like, yeah, you know what I mean. Tyres! Are we building RC now? Apparently so. Okay, so we do have some nice tyres. Again, it's really funny, this is hollow. If you can see in these are actually hollow. Trouble with it is you want to do weight on wheels. Now a little trick you can actually do is that if you're putting it on a base, you can actually drill a hole through these, put on here with a washer to spread the weight to give you the weight on wheels effect, and then actually put in a bolt and a screw system underneath, and then screw it down to pull it the weight of the wheels down. Drawback to it is, don't ask me what it's going to look like in 20 years time. Old stuff used to go gooey and it used to melt and be horrible. Modern vinyl I don't think it's quite as bad as that, but that's what it used to do. But you could also as well just cut it with a knife. But if you want that big squishy effect on the side, as I said, put a probably, I don't know, an M5 bolt in there with a washer as well. It's a little bit wider, and then you can screw it, and what happens is you will physically pull it down, because the flatness of that washer is your flat spot, and that will pull it down and it stops it sort of pirouetting, so it's not standing on its tiptoes. But there you go, that's pretty much action mount size, and the nose wheel gives you an idea of how big this thing is. Right, now this is one of the areas where I heard lots of people talking. People were telling me, Phil, have you seen the clear parts on this thing? It's awful. So let's have a look myself for a change. Okay, so looking at this front canopy, that actually looks pretty good. Very nice, good sharp edging on it. So if you're going to be masking yourself, you're going to have no problems with that at all. But if you're going to buy a mask set, that will drop in there beautifully, no problems. Clarity wise, you can probably see for yourself, that's not too bad at all. Okay, this is obviously the sides of the side turrets. Again, good sharp details, that'll take everything really nice. Windows on the side, no problem. The ball turret on the front, you can see is crystal clear, and the top turret. I have no problem with any of those whatsoever. Now, I'm not saying about quality of the shape and design, I'm just going on from what I see. You know me, if it looks like a B-24, it smells like a B-24, you tell me it's a B-24, that's good enough for me. Okay, really nice piece of clear work there. You can see how clear that is, zero distortion. And from the outside, got a little bit, but obviously you get that on the real thing, so that's really nice indeed. We've got that sort of, they call it star turret, moon turret, down on the front. Side windows there a little bit. Yeah, they're not perfect, shall we say. You can see a bit of distortion in those. That's a shame, but the others are nice. Okay, and there, if it's running loose, we have the tail turret. Okay, that's beautifully done. That's very clever. Different way of doing it. Seems okay to me. And then obviously if you were putting together, clearly we're not. Flory, stop playing. This is where it goes horrendously wrong. Don't do it. We won't do it. Don't do it. But that actually looks really nice to me. Okay. And we've got the, obviously this is the rear door for getting in and out. No problem with that either. And there you have it. I know it's a long review, stay with me for this. You know, at the end of the day, final thoughts. It is what it is. This is £150, because obviously that's the full thing. Yes, you can get it for 130 quid, all right? But let's assume you pay full whack for this thing, and it's £130. Look at, seriously, the amount of plastic you've got. Compare that to a 32nd scale Spitfire, Tamiya Spitfire, same money. This is just on another level. It absolutely gives you tons. And then you have to think about it. Okay, two types of modelling with this one. Build it straight out of the box, you're going to have something very, very impressive. Okay, it might look a little bit like a Merit kit, 1/16, because there's not a lot going on to it, but let's face it, it's not going to take a lot to really bring this up to speed. Let's assume that Edard and perhaps some of the aftermarket guys are coming along as we speak. Okay, at the time of doing this review, I don't think there's anything out, but there will be. Okay, and doing the photo etch for it. A simple upgraded photo etch set for some of the stuff in there will be absolutely beautiful on this one. Certain areas I don't think you need it, like wheel wells, let's face it, you're not going to see them up underneath there, but perhaps something around the turret, around the flight deck, perhaps even around the Bombays, things like that, just to liven it up in there, I think will go a long, long way. The waist guns, I know a lot of people have mentioned about they're the wrong type, blah, 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 blah in there. Again, I am not an aficionado on the B-24J, so I can't actually speak on this thing, but I know apparently it is the wrong version or whatever it is. But again, you're only talking about a window here with a gunner in it, so if he hasn't got the glass, and it's just open, then I'm sure you could scratch build something very, very easy to put it in there in a little bit of plastic card, or by just using what you've got, okay? But that is a thing to it. And again, when you're looking around at some of this stuff, and you see the level, the detail, the sizing on this thing and everything else like that, you could just use this as a starting point, or you can actually then say to yourself, that's where I'm going to start, this is where I'm going to end, and I'm going to go to town, I'm going to rivet this thing, I'm going to put stress skin into it, I'm going to do all these good things to it and turn it into something extra, extra special. And this isn't just to go with 1/32 scale stuff. I'm currently, as we speak, working on this. Now this is a 1/72. This is what we're saying about the, this is actually bigger, the 1/72 Bear is bigger than actually a 1/32 B24, okay, the gangly thing, but I've completely re-scribed, re-riveted and going to town on this thing, okay, and it's coming together really nicely. But the kit itself is pretty much plain and boring, there's not got a lot going on with it, but let's face it, it's the best kit out there in 1/72 scale to work on, and with me, I've re-riveted this thing, I'm re-scribing it and I'm adding detail. That's easier to do on this than it would be on that. Okay, very straightforward, very, very easy to do, just to give it that little bit of an edge to make it go any further. Now, okay, the small rant thing. I've had loads of people message me about this kit telling me it's crap and it's awful. I don't agree. I think for what the money you're spending on this particular kit, the amount of plastic you're getting with this kit, and the start point you've got with this kit, I can't fault it. Now, I can't say if it goes together or not. I haven't built it. I know there's a couple of these being built that I know of. One actually on the Flooring Models forum as we speak. It looks stunning, absolutely stunning. And the modeler who's doing it is doing an amazing job, and it's going to be a beautiful kit when it's finished. Again, I think it's one of those things that people love to knock a kit for what it is instead of seeing the bigger picture. The bigger picture to this is you can just build it straightforward out of the box and you're going to have something very impressive, or you could use it for a project. And again, the other big thing, like I say to all modelers when they complain about the price of kits and how bad a kit is and all things like that, at the end of the day, actually bang for buck. How many hours are you going to spend putting this particular thing together for 130 quid? What other hobby could you possibly do in the world that you'll get that amount of time involved? This is probably a normal modeler's 6 months to a year's project to build this one for 130 quid, and maybe if you threw yourself at it, another 50 quid in aftermarket or scratchboard building stuff, styrene sheet, things like that, and put the actual effort into it. You're going to turn out with something really very, very impressive. For years, people have called out for bigger scale bombers. You're being spoiled now, let's face it. We've got this one, we've got the B-17, you've got the B-25, you've got the Lancaster coming along in various flavours, so you are spoiled for choice. My problem is, where's a nice 1/48th one? We want a nice 1/48th Lancaster, we want a nice 1/48 B-17, we want a very nice 1/48 scale B-24 bomber, but unfortunately we've been sidestepped those, so I'm hoping that these manufacturers will come back and go back and do those ones. But in the meantime, if you are looking for something very, very impressive, very big, a ton of plastic, and I think a very cost-effective model, especially if you're just going to build it straight out of the box, because for 130 quid it's a bargain, then this is where you want to be. So there we go, this is the Hobby Boss 1/32 B24 scale Liberator.